Hey everyone, welcome to today's edition of One Single Story, where each weekday we tackle a single relevant question based on our Bible reading for that day. This week our reading is centered around the book of James, and today I'm joined by Alyssa Bream and Chris Rexroad. We're going to look at a question from James 4, chapter 4, verses 7 through 17. And he says, "So humble yourselves before God, resist the devil and he will flee for you. Come close to God and God will come close to you. Wash your hands, you sinners, and purify your hearts. For your loyalty is divided between God and the world." There's a phrase in there that I have heard used lots of times that I don't know that I've given a lot of thought to about how you do it. So today I'm going to ask a how-to question. How do you resist the devil?
I don't think there's one single this is the step to resist the devil. I think there's multiple parts to this. I think one, it is a choice that you make to submit yourself to God and to turn away from things. I think sometimes we don't want to make that choice. We want the things that are shiny over there. I think it's a discipline to continually make that choice, and I think it's part of it is surrounding ourselves with people who are not only good influences but would keep us accountable. But also just that good influence. People around you are seeking after things they shouldn't be and going, for lack of a better term, the way of the world. That's what we're going to want to do. So we have to surround ourselves with good influences, and that will help too.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of the safeguards that Alyssa talked about. And a lot of it really just has to do with the way that you live your life and what you allow yourself to be a part of, like Alyssa said, the people you surround yourself. And one of the biggest things are your friends. You know, what do your friends do? What do you participate with them, whether it has to do with your language or your actions or various things, the activities. But constantly keeping yourself in the Word of God and being content with what you have, which can be a challenge at times.
So I do think there are multiple ways to resist the devil. Part of it is our submission to God. That's what he says. It's almost a contrast. Resist the devil, submit to God. By submitting to God, you technically are resisting the devil. It's like when you submit yourself to the authority and laws of the United States, to a certain degree, you're resisting the laws and authority of other nations to a certain degree. Because it is hard to submit to more than one thing. I would say the same is true, like in marriage. Maybe that's a better example. There's a expectation of mutual submission in marriage. It is hard for me to be submitted to my wife and then submit to some other authority in my life. But at the moment that mutual submission is no longer present, the easier it is for me to find myself in some unhealthy relationship that wouldn't be wise, because there's always that tension, right? The devil never gives up on trying to find ways to get us to follow after him. What are when it says he flees, does he stay away? Is that a permanent choice? I mean, I don't know. What do you think he's trying to tell us here?
No, I wouldn't say that's a permanent choice. It's just him responding, because if you're obeying Christ and Christ commands him to flee from you, to leave you, then he's responding to what he has to. Not really so much because we told him to, but in the name of Christ or Christ himself doing that. But like you said before, he's going to constantly come up with new ways to get you. This time it might have been because of greed or lust or something like that, and next time he's going to come in and try to work on you through a work opportunity or power or something like that.
I'll read just a couple sentences from this commentary here, and I think they sum it up well. The devil is the ultimate source of testing or temptation, and to refuse the call of desire is to resist him. When resisted, he flees. He may threaten disaster, but it is all a lie. It only has power if believed. I think that thing, it doesn't mean he gives up, but any threats that the devil makes of disaster, it's all a lie.
Can you be submitted to two authorities in your life?
I guess it depends if the authorities are aligned, because I would say there's multiple, and maybe I'm interpreting this question wrong, but there's multiple things, like you said, we're under the authority of the United States, but also as my boss, I'm under your authority, and as, like, there's multiple things like that. And if they don't conflict, you can be under multiple authorities. I mean, you're not telling me to break any United States laws that I am aware of. Now, when we travel to other countries, that's another story. I'm sure we've broken some traffic laws. But I don't know. That's my answer.
Yeah, I guess I think about some of our people that are either in military or serve in the government or something, that, you know, as Christians, that they're submitted to God, but they're also submitted to beyond what we're required to do, the authority that's on us just as civilians, but in their position as either, you know, like a judge or somebody that works in, blanking on it right now, like the FBI or something like that. There are certain authorities that you're also under as well. And like Alyssa said, that you don't want them to come into conflict, but it can be hard when the two of them do.
Yeah. So my answer would be, I think you have to be submitted to multiple places. But I do think alignment would be a good word to describe it. Jesus submitted to the authority of his parents. He recognized the authority of government. Paul would later write about that authority in government. There's a certain submission to the church that you have to do. You know, when you say, I want to be a part of a local body, I'm submitting myself to the authority of this group. In marriage, we have to submit ourselves to one another. You know, that's it. And I think the alignment line up under, probably it would be the right definition for submission, you know, to line up under. When those things get out of line is when there becomes a question. In a spousal situation, if the alignment is not with God, if they want something God doesn't want, that's clear. You know, that alignment, that mutual submission becomes a challenge. When the church asks you to do something that would not be biblical, I think then that alignment becomes challenged, because ultimately God is the place where we have to be submitted. So if it deviates from what he would want, and anytime submission becomes out of alignment, it creates a tension where there can be a separation. You may not be with your spouse, you know, you may not be at that local church. You may choose to move to another country, you know, because you don't believe that you're being forced to live out of alignment. I don't think. Do I think all of our laws in the United States match up with the Word of God? The answer to that is no. But the other side of that is that I can't think of one where I'm being forced to do something that would cause me to compromise my submission to God. that's when it becomes a question. Is not are they doing something or allowing something that I consider to be immoral or ungodly. The question is, are they forcing me to do something that would be either immoral or ungodly? And I think those are two different situations and how we make our choices, because I do think, I think alignment is a good way to say it. Are they in alignment with one another? Have you ever had misalignment in submission where what they expected you to do did not match up with what God wanted you to do, and you had to choose your submission to God over some other place of submission, whether it was work related, relationship related?
There's this one job I go back to that I think it was my first like official job, and like I wanted to do everything like by the books, and they like, I mean, like, exactly, and that's still pretty much how I am. Um and I was taking too long, and the boss came and turned the lights off on me as I was trying to count down a drawer because he was mad. He just wanted to get out of there and whatever. And so then, like, I lost count, and then I had to start again. And so, like, I mean, I think, and so I had to say something to him, like, hey, I need to be able to see to count. And so, like, I think there's tensions where, like, trying to do the right thing and something comes against you and you got to make a choice. Do I just let this go, or do I push and make sure that I'm doing the right thing?
In a previous employment, there was a misuse of money and power, both of them equally, and it was something that I couldn't stand for. And through lots of discussions, it eventually caused me to leave, just because I knew that it wasn't right, and that's what God did not make it clear to me, that I needed to stay there any longer in that form of employment, which was still hard.
Yeah, I think those situations are complicated, painful, difficult. I think the place we most, well, yeah, I think that's fair. I think the place we're most likely to see it are in relationships where we have friendships, and to be a part of a group, they want us to participate in things that are sinful or not godly. I don't think it would rise to the level of unethical, but I um, I recently read a prayer request where a person was saying they were trying to change their life, but the hardest part of it was changing their friends, cutting the ties with those old relationships. And that is a submission issue. That is, my friendships are not in alignment with God, which makes my life not in alignment with God. And so I've got to choose what that's going to look like. And so I think relationships in general are the most common place where the alignment is going to test our godliness. I do think it happens in the workplace some, where there are unethical bosses, where they may ask you to do things that would not be right, or unethical. But most of the time, I think I see it more often in relationships than I do anywhere else. Well, thank you for joining us today on this edition of One Single Story. We hope you'll be back with us next week as we start a conversation around the book of 1 Peter.